All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you are doing well wherever you are. Now, as always, curious where folks are in the world. I'm in the Bay Area, California, which, terrible news, folks. It rained. It's the worst weather we could possibly have. A light misting descended upon us yesterday. It's awful. I don't know what to do. I can't go outside. And it's weird. The sky isn't a bright, sunny color. I don't know what to do. So if anyone has any tips or any words of wisdom that could help, I'd appreciate it. Mark, welcome from Netherlands. Chad, I'm trying to find a good joke about the homonym you used. I'm glad you can hear me though. Thank you. Montreal, welcome, Mana. Mana Nana. Mana Nana. I hope I'm saying that right. Uh, Michael, I know I'm saying that wrong. Welcome from Poland. All right, folks, we are here to talk about the ACA 920. We're talking about advanced editing today. Now, this will cover topics around a certification for Atlassian, the Atlassian Certified Associate. However, the skills we learn are valuable outside of just the certification. So if you choose to sit the certification, this will help prepare you for that. It's not the only thing you should be doing. You should be practicing, you should be studying on your own. However, if you don't want to sit the certification, you are still going to get a great foundational knowledge of Confluence. So this will be useful for you if you use Confluence anywhere in your life. Get myself a lizard. I've been yelled at if I'm not allowed to bring any more cats home. I don't think I could bring more lizards. Any lizards, actually. Ansa, welcome. Kaithra, good to see you. Missed you yesterday. So we are going to jump into advanced editing. As usual, we'll have a couple of slides just to orient us. This one will dig in more to Atlassian intelligence, but also things like macros. Um, Now, just to set expectations, I'm not going to talk about every possible macro. Confluence comes with several dozen. But we're going to talk about some that are more common and some of my favorites. So as we're going, like think through if you have questions on macros or if you have favorites you want to share, that kind of thing. Um, Definitely something good to bring up. Oh, I got you, Emily. I shouldn't become a lizard. I should get a sun lamp. Oh, did I miss my? There it is. All right, so we're going to jump into our slides. And the window is the wrong size. Let me fix this. There we go. Quick introduction. My name is Rob. I've been in information technology my whole career, and I learned very quickly that a knowledge base or recording knowledge is a big part of that job. Hey, Sandy, good to see you. And I found that out because I would learn things and then I would forget them and I would get frustrated with myself. Uh, Yaneli, hope I'm saying that right. Welcome. So I would start building my own knowledge bases, keeping my own documentation, and that's been a through line throughout my career. Every job that I've had has had a lot of knowledge that has to be built and maintained, not just for myself, like I'm very selfish in that sense, but for others. Ansa, welcome. East Lansing, Michigan. I actually don't think I've ever been to Michigan, George. I'll have to get there one day. I've been using Confluence specifically about a decade. Um, and I've started using it, many of you know, because I was forced to. I showed up at my job and I said, hey, which knowledge base do we have? Or where is our knowledge base? And someone pointed at Confluence. And that was all my training. I didn't get any orientation. I didn't get someone like me now. And that's why I do this, because we're told to use these systems and we're forced to as part of our job, but we're never shown how to use them properly or in better ways. And my goal is to make sure none of us get frustrated using systems. Systems exist to help us and to do things and not get in our way and frustrate us. So that's why I'm doing these live learnings. I have other live learnings. I tend to do them Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. But I've also got, wow, what's going on there? There we go. Online Udemy courses and other learning opportunities to help folks understand things. Now, I like YouTube. You all can see and hear me. I can't see and hear you, though, so please use the chat. Many of you have found it already. Welcome, Joseph from Kansas. I'll use chat to ask questions, do a poll, but you also see other folks chatting in there. What I like about these sessions is there's other really smart folks in the chat, and you help each other out, which is great. So if you see a question you know an answer to, if you have a comment you want to add, if you have some related topic you want to bring up, please drop it in chat because there's probably someone else who will engage and help you out. Now, there are other ways to connect. I have a Discord server set up. I've just put the link in the chat. We've got about 30, 40 folks in there, slowly growing, but that's intended to be a place between these trainings you all can connect. So about Confluence, Jira, other topics, things like that. Of course, please like and subscribe. That helps the channel out. But also, if you have ideas for other trainings, please share them. After the 920, which I'll wrap up next Friday, I'll be doing the 900, which is a Jira software basics. So intended for like software engineers, scrum masters, those kind of folks. But I'm always looking for more ideas, more things that you find useful and interesting. I will make up ideas, but they might not be exactly what you want. Chad, I am very modest about my intelligence level, so I appreciate the call out. So a quick agenda. There's three main concepts or ideas we're going to talk about, and that's AI, Atlassian intelligence, macros, and page restrictions. So we start out with the slides just to get us all oriented. There will be terms and ideas that are unique to Confluence, and if you don't know them, it's really hard to look stuff up. If you don't know what the thing is called a page restriction, when you go into Atlassian Community or go onto Google, it's going to be hard to find help. So we'll start out with just those concepts so we all understand them, but then we're going to get hands-on. We're going to do all these things and probably more in Confluence Cloud Premium. I'm using Premium because Atlassian Intelligence is in there. Now, if you're on a free instance or standard, you won't have Atlassian Intelligence. So that's the only thing you'll be missing. But I'll show you what you need to know about it. Scott, good morning. Glad you're here. Good to see you again. So our first question, I talk good. Have you used Atlassian Intelligence? And if so, what for? And this is the AI tool built into Confluence and Jira. And I assume other Atlassian products, but I mainly use Confluence and Jira. And while you're contemplating this question, I will pour more coffee. Someone asked me why I do these at 6 a.m. my time, and honestly, it's the only time I have between family and work and everything else. That said, I'm glad it works for a lot of other folks. Atlassian Intelligence is Atlassian's artificial intelligence tool. It came out about a year ago, and it shows up in Cloud Premium and Higher. Now, it shows up in a couple of specific places, mainly in our content, so pages, stereotypically, but also now in whiteboards. And I can only assume they're going to keep rolling it out in more places. It also shows up in automations, though, so I can show a use case once we get to automations of using AI, artificial intelligence there. Yanela uses it to summarize stuff. I really like the summarize feature, and I really like the summarize feature that summarizes changes to the page. If you're in a big organization and someone else makes edits, AI will summarize what changed since you last saw the page, which is pretty nifty. Automations, grammar, wording suggestions. Kari, I could definitely have used it on the prior slide. Whoops. George doesn't use it at all. Totally okay. It's pretty useful. How is it useful, Chad? Kythra doesn't like it at all and wishes you could disable it. This is completely fair. The nice people at Atlassian have put Atlassian Intelligence in their product, but it can be hard to make it go away, especially for folks who are more skilled than I am in things like writing and development. So for some folks, this tool will be annoying and just an extra thing on the screen, and I completely understand that. I think overall it's a net positive in what it can do. I don't know. I have this constant debate with my partner over are large language models anything more than just enhanced search? We can turn it off at the org or instance level. The challenge is if my org admin doesn't want to turn it off or disable it, I can't get rid of it. So if I'm in a big org, this can be a discussion or something I'll have to go chase people down. There are some use cases, though. Ideation, it's that stereotypical kind of ChatGPT thing. Hey, help me out here with just creating ideas. I haven't used it too much for that, to be honest. I also haven't used it too much for changing tone. And that's just me. I just write stuff and I go. So personally, I don't know how useful these two things are. That said, it's important to understand what the tool can do. Sandy, this is not a use case I had considered, improving writing for non-native speakers, and that's because I'm only a native English speaker. I barely speak English, let alone other languages. But this might be a good point. If this is not your first language, or if you're not as comfortable writing in a language, maybe the AI tool can help support that if it's available. But it can also modify the tone, so change it to be more casual or educational. We'll play around with that a little bit once we get into our instance. But these are two of the more obvious use cases. We mentioned before. I'm looking at this slide, wondering why past Rob was stupid and left this here. We spoke about, ignore the thing on the right. We spoke about summaries before. This for me is the more useful use case because I can go to a page, and if it's very long, I just hit summarize, and it gives me a couple bullet points. So it lets me kind of fast forward and skip ahead. It also will summarize differences between the last time I looked at a page. And that for me has been the single most useful part of it on a page. Again, I work with a lot of folks. I don't have time to look through a page or check version history manually. The AI tool will just go do all that for me. This is what I meant to show you. There are some use cases too where we can generate similar ideas. This will be on whiteboards. So within Confluence, AI isn't just touching pages, it's also getting into whiteboards to sort of help out there. Does it translate well? I wish I knew. Ansia, I'm gonna have to rely on you here for my non-monolingual friends. I would be curious how well it translates. There is an automation template, and I'm going a little bit advanced here, that will translate a page, insert a child page with the translation under it in different languages. So it does have some capacity to do that. Anytime I use a machine tool like Google Translate, like artificial intelligence to translate, I always put in there somewhere translated by a computer, just so when someone looks at it, they know, hey, this wasn't a human and it might have a lot of mistakes. So if you use AI or anything else to translate automatically, I always include that. Frank, good to see you. So what or who is a macro? Our next question. And which is your favorite, or who is your favorite, if it's a person? I don't know. Are you yelling at me here? All I recognize in here is my name. I'm sorry. Sandy, if you don't mind and have time, and you could test both of those. And I'm asking just because, again, I only speak English. So if I were to translate, I would just kind of shrug and go, yeah, that looks good. But I would love to hear if you did some testing or if you checked just to see what it's like. George can't pick a favorite. All right, George, your top three then. They don't have to be favorites, or your top five. Just curious. Macros, I call them magic. They're little enhancements to a page. They're extensions to what Confluence pages can do. Now, the term macro in different systems can mean different things, but in Confluence, it means an extension to a page. Think of it like a little program, a little app that does something different or useful or special. Now, Confluence out of the box, when you first turn it on, comes with 60, 70 of these. I don't know how many. If you download apps from Marketplace, you will end up with more. And this confused me because when I changed jobs, I didn't realize that my first job had apps and the second one didn't. And so I was missing macros and I was like really wondering what the heck happened. Some of the favorites, page properties, talk, child pages, and date. Emily, what is talk for those of you who might not know the acronym? Frank also likes talk. Here's a quick random question. What does TLA mean? That is not related in any way to Confluence or this exam. It's just a fun thing to know. But macros can range to very simple things, a panel, a colorful bit of a page, or really complex, integrating with other systems. So exactly what they do differs based on the macro, but they extend the functionality of the page. Talk is what the clock does after the tick. Thank you, Emily. That is very illuminating. Um, it stands for table of contents. Um, and I'll talk about why I like that macro so much. Sorry, I just realized TOC, talk, and talk, like speaking, sound the same. That's confusing. I will demonstrate what the table of contents macro looks like. George, my friend, nailed it. A TLA is a three-letter acronym. A TLA is a TLA, for those of you in the know. Lozenges. Kythra, lozenges to me are those things I eat when I have a cold that make my throat feel better. Is that what you're referring to here? And I'm being purposely obtuse because that term is specific to like UI. If you could share more about what a lozenge is, and I'll point them out visually too. The first macro we'll talk about is expand. And this is a little box that shows up that will open up and show something in it or hide stuff in it. Now, it's useful for shortening pages. I don't like them too much. And I say that because typically if I'm using expand, I'm doing something like hiding an FAQ or something. And when I do that, I ask myself, should this just be its own page? They are a useful tool, however, because it lets us have something like click here to learn more. And it makes the page visually shorter. So it makes it easier to browse. That said, they can be easy to miss. The font of them is a little bit smaller and it's a little bit grayer than other font. So you might not get it properly. Lozenges are the status macro, which I'll show in a minute. Lozenges are a way visually to show something. It usually looks like an oval shape. So it looks like a lozenge, the things you would have, as Emily's saying, the Ricola in the United States to help your throat feel better. Kari, info panel, table of contents, divider, expand, filter by label, create Jira issue. All top, however many, 6 or 7 for me as well. So expand is one of them. Next, we have the excerpt. This is one of my favorites. The problem is the excerpt is completely useless without a related or partner macro. Now, the excerpt lets you define part of a page as an area, and then you can take everything in that excerpt and show it on another page. I typically do this for a background section or a high-level overview. So an executive brief, 2 or 3 sentences describing the thing. I put that in an excerpt, and then I have another page that will insert the excerpt. So there's a separate macro called insert excerpt. Everyone say that 5 times fast and see what happens. Insert, excerpt, insert, I can't do it twice. But what it will do is mirror that content. So in this screenshot, the bit in the gray box in the bottom left isn't actually on this particular page. It lives in the excerpt somewhere else. So this lets you write down information one time, but use it in many places. I think of this as a programming analogy. It's like modular code. I can refer to the module in multiple places. I don't have to rewrite the same thing in many spots. I just do it in one. So this for me is very useful for things like an index or for sharing information across areas easily. Debbie, I was going to ask if anyone outside of the States actually has Ricola. I assume it's just in the US, but that's my assumption. Expand, Kari has a good point. Some macros don't play well with other things. One reason, again, I don't like expand is because you can't put every other macro in there. So that can make it frustrating and turn people off from using them. But the nice people at Atlassian are constantly improving the product. So from time to time, we should go check it out. Ansa, I'm sorry, excerpt. There's a weird P in there. I always sound silly saying this word, or always feel silly. Now, excerpt also works with another one called content by label that I'll show you all. That makes an easy way to make an index of pages. Frank has a good point. There's a little more advanced way to use an excerpt. I can hide the excerpt here on the page it lives on. So when you visit that page, you don't actually see it. It only shows up somewhere else. Emily saying we can't make it a heading. Sorry, I'm just trying to think through why we would want just a heading to be excerpted out. Usually I put the content under a heading on the page. So I'll say like background, the excerpt's under that. Um, Scott, this can be used across spaces. There are, however, other ways to mirror content. Um, and that just gave me an idea, Scott, for a video on how to mirror content. Next up is the talk, which is the table of content. Table of contents, excuse me. Oh, Daryl, excellent point. For the excerpt, Confluence and Jira are very good at ensuring permissions are respected. So if I have an excerpt in a space called jQuil, and Daryl doesn't have access to that space, and I use that as an excerpt in an area he can see, he won't see the excerpt. He'll get an error. So Confluence is smart enough to realize, hey, Daryl shouldn't have this, and it'll hide it. Oh no, I'm confusing my Belgian friends. Sorry, Sandy. I'll see if I can find a picture of Ricola by the end of this. We would buy it in a drugstore or pharmacy here if we had a cough or a sore throat. It's like a hard candy we would suck on in the States to help our throats feel better. It's not anything in Confluence that I'm aware of. There's a very old ad, too, where it claims to be Swiss, and these people up in the mountains are yodeling and blowing these giant horns. I don't know how true any of that is. Back to our table of contents. This is one of my favorite macros. I put it on almost every page I use, and it automatically generates a linked list of headers. So what you're seeing is a list of all the headers on a page, and this is why headers are important. Valerian, you're better at words than me. Thank you. Swiss candy for a sore throat. Wait, it's actually from Switzerland? Sorry, I always assumed it was just marketing nonsense that it was in any way related to Switzerland. It is. Yes, it's a hard candy. Sorry, okay. Um, Back to our table of contents. This is one of the reasons headers are so useful. Headers provide a link. It's called an anchor, the technical term. But the table of contents reads that, and it gives you a list of these links that you can click on and go right to that header. So incredibly useful for bigger pages, even smaller ones. And you'll notice there's indents in this. This is telling me that the team and status headers are maybe level 2 headers, and define the problem is level 1. So it'll build this beautiful table of contents. And it's entirely automatic. So I don't have to go in and update this. All I have to do is make sure my headers are correct. And there are multiple tricks to using this macro. I'm going to do an upcoming YouTube series just on deep dives into macros. I'll explain a lot of this. But you can do things like make it be horizontal across the top of the page, so visually different. You can have it ignore headers with certain words in it. You can have it ignore headers at a certain depth. So you can do a lot of things to make this much more tailored to your use case. Honestly, I tend to just leave it on all my templates, and I just slam it onto every page because it is so useful. Why not, Emily? Show me any peer-reviewed study that says it's a bad idea. Sorry, we're going down a candy rabbit hole here, folks. But please continue the discussion in the chat. Uh, yes, Sandy, this is more than a bit of a digression. The next one is the panel. And this one shows up in a lot of templates by default, but it's the colorful bar that goes across the screen. I will use especially what they call the error and warning panels when I'm writing documentation as a reminder, like, don't do this, or make sure you do something specific. And it's just a way to make something visually pop and add color to a page. We now can highlight text. That's a recent feature. So panels might be less useful, but they do provide a break in the page. So they're a good way to break up your content and call attention to something specific. For example, I might put it at the top of my page, warning, this is only intended for XYZ use cases. Or I might put an info panel, for more information, go here. Within the panel macro, you can change the background color and you can change the icon used to be any emoji. So you can customize them a bit. In the macro menu, the forward slash or the plus, though, you're going to get these 6 or 7 or 8 kind of default that they've named for you. Child display is another useful macro for quickly building pages. I use this a lot for an index. Say I have a team, I'm working with a recruiting team, and they have a new hire, and they need to see all the documentation on our recruiting process. I might have a page, called recruiting process index. That's a really bad name. Recruiting process start here, and under that is everything related to the recruiting process. I can have some descriptions about it, and then I can include the child page macro, and it'll just have a list of all those child pages, so someone can look at it and quickly click around and see what's up. Now, there are some options for it and how we display it. We can stop showing children after a certain level. So maybe you only want to show the pages directly under your recruiting process. You don't want to show the ones under that. Or maybe you want to change some other things about it. So it's another way to tailor our content and make it easier for folks to find things. And that's our child display or children display. One thing I will call out, they have changed the names of some of these macros. Content by label is no longer called that, I think. Ooh, Frank's getting fancy with add-ons. I'll talk about those in just a moment. But the child display is useful because, again, it gives you an easy list of things that you can just display on a page. Now, one thing to point out is the first option in this thing's options is to what do I look at as the parent. So it doesn't have to be the page you're on. I could have all my recruiting process stuff in another space and point this macro at that one and pull it in. So different ways of sharing content across areas. The last macro we'll dig into here is the labels list. I use this one more as an admin to figure out what labels exist. Labels are good and bad. And actually, I'm curious, I'm going to set off maybe a firestorm here. What are your thoughts on labels? They are great for organizing and categorizing data. It's bad because if someone can edit a page, they can make new labels. And so spaces will quickly end up with multiple versions of engineering, all spelled differently or abbreviated differently. But if you have a good labeling strategy and a good label structure, it makes a lot of things a lot easier. You can automatically sort information. You can pull lists of things. I'm just going to go with this first comment about how awesome they are, and I will stop all comments about labels. I personally like them, but they are a pain to manage, especially out of the box without an add-on. Now, this labels list macro can help you manage them. I tend to have a restricted page just for me that lists all the labels in a space, and that lets me more easily police them. I'll go review the list every once in a while and say, hey, why are there 2 engineering labels spelled differently? Let me go fix that. Emily, not to my knowledge. Creating a label is tied to the edit permission on a page. So, George, this is a very good point. It's a bit beyond the scope of the particular certification we're talking about, but the processes around the systems we use are super important. Even as a non-admin, making time once a month, once a quarter to go in and garden, as you put it, George, I like that phrase, is important. And that could mean reviewing your older content and updating it. That could mean reviewing your labels. That could mean doing any number of things. But just like that garden analogy, if we don't go in and weed it every once in a while, it's going to just grow out of control. Another analogy would be my office. If I don't take time to clean it, it's going to get bad quick. Excuse me. I didn't think this should be used. Anse, does this refer to labels, or does this refer to the labels list macro or something else? George, the other analogy I use for Confluence is like a library. Without librarians constantly reshelving things and organizing, it gets out of control. But I also use the gardening analogy because it's something that clicks very easily for folks, and it's very similar, and we've all seen them get out of control. This can be useful, Ansa, just so you can quickly see all the pages. If you click on the label in the list, it'll show you a search of all those pages. But I'll show you, I think we'll talk about search in the next session or the one after. You can filter your search by label. So this can help your end users as well. All right, one of my favorite topics. We're going to move on to restrictions. Do you find restrictions easy to understand? Why or why not? And while I'm here, not what I wanted to copy, I wanted this. Discord. Debbie, I need more hours in the day. My admin tidy ups. Yes. Automations can help you. We won't talk about too much about them in this course. But feel free to reach out to me, Debbie, if you have specific challenges. I'll be happy to help out. But I found automating some of these tasks, like cleaning up, archiving pages, has saved me a lot of time. Yaneli, I'm not aware of any way out of the box to restrict label creation, and out of the box just means with no add-ons. Again, labels are tied to the page edit permission. So if you don't give someone the edit permission, they can't make labels, but they also can't make pages. So right now, that's the trade-off. So restrictions. This is the lowest level of security or access in Confluence right now. At the top, we have the instance level. Can you log in at all? Then we have the space level. Can you see the space? And then we have on the piece of content. And restrictions exist on every piece of content, databases, whiteboards, pages. And they are what allow us to control view and edit access to a specific piece of content. And this is probably one of the most frustrating things and one of the things that I as an admin deal with the most. Why can Rob see it, but Daryl cannot, or vice versa? Daryl, correct. Daryl, I'm curious in your mind, what made folders make... why did it get more complex with folders? I guess is what I'm curious to learn. And again, they are confusing. Wow, let me get rid of that. Sorry. They are confusing just because of their complexity. That sounded dumb. They're confusing because most folks don't understand truly how they work, and most users shouldn't need to. Now, I'm an admin. I need to know this so I can help folks. And for us on the exam, we need to know it. But most people should understand the basics. And so the first one is the view permission. So we can restrict or remove the ability to view a page. And this is very good. There might be pages that we don't need everyone to see. Now, stereotypically at a company, I might have contractors and they shouldn't see certain pages in the HR space. It's not appropriate for them. That's totally okay. I can make sure they can't see it. Now, if you can't see a page, you also can't edit the page. So view is the most restrictive. If I say Rob can't view it, you also can't edit it. And this is the one that really messes with people because, again, I can see it, but Frank can't. Why not? Restrictions are frustrating. Yes, they are. Frank, restrictions are good if the breadcrumb requirements are understood. Frank, I assume by breadcrumb requirements, I got to peek over this bar. I really need to fix where these things go, don't I? If the breadcrumb requirements are understood. So I'll talk about how the restrictions work, Frank, but that is an excellent call out. And how permissions inherit down. So in this screenshot, if I am blocked from viewing the design page, I cannot see how to log in, example postmortem, and untitled draft. View restrictions inherit down. And that's what Frank is saying right here. This is the important thing to remember. View restrictions inherit to all the children. This is very powerful. You can say no one can see the design page and then anything under it automatically gets locked down. This is also very annoying if you don't realize a parent has that restriction, especially in deeper things. However, the other restriction we can do is editing restrictions. I might be able to see design and edit design and not edit design but I might be able to edit how to log in. So edit restrictions do not inherit down. So again, I can be blocked from editing design, but I can be allowed to edit how to log in. This confused me for the longest time, and I had to go in and set up a little test with a friend at work and just had them go in and check. But that's the big difference. View inherits down, edit does not. Guide teams to think about the amount of content they want restricted versus what they want to share. So it sounds like, Kari, you're saying think about the things you want to hide, not about the open stuff, and focus on that. Now, in terms of us being end users, really we just need to consider, is the thing I'm making sensitive in some way, and should I restrict it? Or is the thing I'm trying to find restricted? Now, the space admins among us and the org admins will have much more thoughts and feelings. But for the purpose of this training, we just need to understand if there's a view restriction, it inherits down. And if it's an edit restriction, it doesn't. And that if we can't add restrictions, we don't have that permission. So this is a separate permission from the ability to edit a page. So if I go into a page and I can't add a restriction, I have to find a space admin for help. I typically work in environments where if I can edit the page, I can add a restriction. But in cases where you don't see that restriction button, it's because you don't have permissions to do it. All right, and we're going to magically teleport into Confluence. Again, we are in Confluence Cloud Premium, so this has that Atlassian intelligence. I won't focus too much on it, but I'll show it to us real quick. This is that actual design page we saw in our screenshots. Isn't it magical? It is just a very ugly template. But in the bottom right, directly under my head, of course, and my Zoom is not working this morning. I apologize. Let me get my head out of the way. There's a summarize button. And again, this is using the AI, the Atlassian intelligence, to summarize the page. I will go in and read a page. Not everyone will. So the utility of this is up for debate. But I found it useful if I'm like, I just don't want to read this thing. It will also flag any changes made since the last time I came. In this instance, I'm pretty much the only user, so there are no changes. If I go in to edit the page, though, up in the top right, I've got a write option. And this will then use that Atlassian intelligence tool to write content and help me change the tone or improve the writing or make it longer or shorter. And they're adding more and more features. And I expect that this feature set will grow, but I can turn it into a table. I can find action items. I can translate. So if you have access to this, it could be a useful tool for you. In my mind, it's like a toolbox. I should know how everything works in there just in case I need it. I don't necessarily have to use it all the time. I can also access Atlassian Intelligence as a macro. It's just a / and it's the first one, AI. And this will give me the same menu. I tend to use the / a lot more just because I don't want to move my hand and move the mouse and click the button. But I find that very useful. So that's our Atlassian Intelligence on a page. It does also show up on whiteboards right now. And again, I assume it will show up in more places. But on whiteboards, you can do things like summarize content. And we're going to talk about more about whiteboards in our last session next Friday. But as you can see, it's summarizing what's on this whiteboard for me. So I don't have to go through and like read everything and figure out what's happening. Okay, now we get to have fun with macros. I'm just going to use this as a white space. Typically, when I build a page, I would insert the macros in appropriate spots. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to kind of throw them into the bottom of the page so we can see how they operate. We started with our expand macro. Whoops. And to get to this, I'm just typing in a /. I could also click this plus button in the top right. This will be the same exact list of things. Again, you'll see me using the / because I'm lazy and don't want to have to move my mouse very much. Using summarize, yep, incident reports in a whiteboard. Oh, it started in Icelandic and went to English. And the translation sounds okay. Like it makes enough sense that you could actually use it versus having to go through and adjust it too much. So I'll just do a / and I'll look for my expand friend. And this is the macro. Now this macro is very simple. It doesn't have any options. I can delete it and I can copy it and I can make it wider. That's about all I can do. Super wide. I have to give it a title. If I don't give it a title, it will just be called to give this expand a title. So I'll call this something like expand demo. And then any text I put in here can be expanded or unexpanded. Expanded. Wow. Unexpanded. Whoa. Not what I want to do. There we go. So now if I publish this page, I'm going to have this expand at the bottom. And you can see it's just collapsed as a line. 95% good on the Icelandic to English translation. That's pretty good to know and pretty neat. Thank you for sharing. I am learning and figuring out how to do the translation because folks need help with it. But personally, I tend to be in monolingual, just English instances. So I haven't run into the challenge of, multiple languages being needed. So I appreciate folks sharing their experience with it. But if I click on expand, it just opens it up. Again, for me, moderate utility. And we can do things like try and insert macros into it. I'm just randomly adding a couple things. One good trick, a double / and hitting enter will insert a date and default to today. So I think, Emily, you were asking about that. If I just do a double / and hit enter twice, it inserts whatever today is for me. So I've just added some macros in there just to see what'll happen. And this is where some macros don't play nice with other macros. But we did get a date and an action item. Uh-oh, what did I push? Define. Action items in here. Here is one other use case for that intelligence. It will define acronyms in your instance. This I actually do find useful, especially when I'm new to a company and I don't know all the TLAs, all the 3-letter acronyms. This will help me look them up, and then it will reference where it found that information. So it doesn't just make up an answer. It'll say, hey, I think it's this, and here are 3 pages that reference it. You can go look it up. So that for me has been useful, especially when I work with teams I'm not as familiar with. But this is our friend expand. Next, I'll show us the table of contents because there is just one on this page. But the first thing the table of contents needs are a set of headers. And if we recall from our last training, we don't have font sizes in Confluence. We have header levels. So headers 1 through 6 in descending size. And on this page, team is a header. And I can tell it's a header because if I put my mouse over it, and I really wish I could zoom in for y'all, it's got this little link icon. And I'll go further down. I'll grab the ready to go link. If I open this in a new tab, what it's going to do is take me directly to that link. So you'll notice that it scrolled down the page, and that fixed my zoom, and now my zoom's broken. Well, I fixed it and broke it immediately, folks. Hang on. It's back to busted. I'm sorry. But it scrolled me down to where that header was. So a great trick is to send links to headers, and then folks don't have to scroll. But it also talks to the table of contents macro. So if I insert a new one, if I just do / table of contents, it's going to automatically just grab all those headers and insert them as links. Makes it very easy. Now on the right, I do have options, and I can get to the options if I click on the header of contents, table of contents. Wow. Come back. There's a little edit icon for it, and that will bring me this side panel. And this is where all my options are. I could make it horizontal. I could have bullets that are circles. I might say exclude header level 1 and maybe start at level 3. And you'll notice the table of contents changed. So this lets me control what it looks like and what gets pulled into it. There are a lot of advanced settings. You can exclude headings with certain things. You can use CSS to customize it. So feel free to explore those. I tend to use the exclude to get rid of some headers I don't need. Wow, under 1 million. Huh. And it still got it fairly good. What else do we got? Ooh. Frank, I seem to remember having to use a lot of anchors in Data Center. But yeah, that trick about copying the link has really helped me. when I'm in a chat with someone and they say, I can't find information, I'll just give them a link directly to the header and say, is this what you needed? And they go, oh, thank you. Makes it very straightforward. So this is our table of contents. Again, I tend to have one of these on almost every page because in my mind, if someone gets to the page, one of the first things they should see is a list of links that will take them to something they want to do or need to know. They shouldn't have to like scroll around to try and find it. They should just be able to click and go right to the thing. I'm very quickly going to check for questions and drink some coffee. A comment about folders being hard to manage. Kari, would be curious if you can expand on that. Personally, I found them very useful for organizing content. We'll touch on them next Friday. Ansa, sorry, I just missed this. Yes, you could use labels to create like groupings of pages. So if you had an engineering label, you could search for any page with the engineering label, or you could only show pages with the engineering label on some macros. Where did I put that excerpt? All right, so I'm going to use this page to make an excerpt. All I'm going to do is do a / and type in the word EXCERPT, excerpt, which is the more I say it, the harder it gets. And then I'm just going to put some stuff in it. And this is just some gobbledygook nonsense I made up about main system computers. But if I click update, we're not going to see any difference. We as viewers don't see the excerpt. So I'm going to go back and edit it real quick. And I don't have many options. I can hide it entirely, and I can give it a name. So I'm going to call this mainframe. Now the name is relatively new. Before this, we could only have one excerpt on a page. But now we can have multiple excerpts, and we can reference them by their name. But I'm also going to hide it. And if I update this, everything in the excerpt will vanish. So this is a way of like hiding information. It plays very well with the page properties macro, which we probably won't get into today, but it's a great way to hide like metadata, background information, stuff about the content that you don't necessarily want everyone seeing for some reason. But you can still make this available on other pages. So I'm going to unhide this right now and call this mainframe again. And by itself, again, that excerpt is fairly useless unless you just want to hide stuff for some reason. A question of how much content to put on a page. Another good kind of meta discussion, Frank. When do we break up a page? Let me write that one down. When to break a page. I believe there's some technical writers in chat. If you have any thoughts on when we should break up pages into multiple pages, I would love to hear a more official thinking than just what Rob has invented in his own mind. So now I have this how to log in. I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to use this page as an example and edit it. And I'm going to go to the bottom again and put in an include excerpt. What do they call it these days? Insert excerpt. I'm sorry, they changed the name on me. So this one's slightly different. I have to give it the name of a page. So I have to know that the excerpt is on how to log in. And you'll see it automatically picked the only excerpt. But if I had multiple ones, I could select from here. And I'll hit preview, and this will show me what will appear. So I can just hit insert, and then update, and now this information magically shows up on the page. But I can't edit it here. If I go to edit, I'll just see that excerpt. I have to go to how to log in, and edit it here. And then if I go back, the excerpt will have been updated once the system catches up. So this is a great way to, again, share information across pages. I use it quite a bit for like frequently asked questions. I'll put an entire FAQ in an excerpt and then just mirror it in like multiple different spots so people find it. One thing I don't like about it is it automatically includes this little header thingy or the name of the source. So one of the only options in the insert excerpt is to remove the title and the frame. And this makes it look more like just text on a page. The one thing to be careful of is if you use these, let your team know because if they go in and try and edit this, they might go insane because it doesn't show up as an edit option. It just shows up as the excerpt. Sorry, Kythra. When to chunk up a page when you need to. Holy tautology, Batman. So that is the excerpt and insert excerpt. I'll show you one more way excerpt can be used. And this one's a bit more advanced, but this is the filter by label. And I'm quickly going to just add this in, and then I have to make one more change. What this is doing, and this is one reason that labels are important, it's running through Confluence to find any page with an excerpt label on it. And what it will do is it will return something about that page here. So I'll refresh. And I can now see this list of pages. I use this for making a dynamic index, a list of pages that updates. It requires me to use labels properly. But if I edit this, I can also force it to show the excerpt. It's in here somewhere. Oh, display preview. There we go. So again, I use this for including a basic background of the page, a high-level bit of information. And this is now dynamic. As it updates, it will just update. So this is a very strong use case for labels. It lets me manage content across spaces more easily. Last discussion point is restrictions. Up in the top right, they've moved this. I had a little short about this earlier. I don't know if anyone caught it, but it highly amused me. They moved where this lives. So now I have general access and I can show restricted. Just a second. There we go. And this is saying only certain people can view and edit. And again, this is our most restrictive one. Only Rob can see and edit this page. But I might say anyone in the space can view it, or anyone in the space can edit. So anyone in the space can edit is the least restrictive. This is the one that says anyone can come in and do basically whatever they want to it. Here's a link. And again, where it gets confusing, the view permissions inherit down. So if I restrict this to only certain people can view, let me add someone here. Pick on my friend Andrew. If I say only Andrew can view, he'll have the same thing for all the children. He won't be able to edit them. But if I can say he can edit this, he might not be able to edit the pages under it. I'll link to an amusing short, hopefully amusing, that I put together about the UI change with the lock. Rob, you're killing me here, man. Nobody look. There we go. Oh no, that's wrong. That's what I meant to do. So just about wrapping up, but what are our next steps? Our next session will be next Tuesday. I'm making it next Tuesday to make sure I can get it all in before Team, the big conference, shows up. So that will be different. Next week, we'll be here Tuesday and on Friday to finish this off, finish off the certification. Please check out the new webpage, new-ish, I should say. I'll drop a link again in our chat. And try not to break everything. I'm putting study materials there. That's got links to our Discord, to our YouTube playlist, everything. But if you're going to take the exam, please study on your own. Please make sure you're going into Confluence and playing around. You're reviewing the notes that I hope you've been taking. I hope. And then attend next week's session. If you have questions or have follow-up ideas or confusions or complaints or compliments or quizzicalities or anything else, shoot me an email, robert@heen.tech. Email me if you need to. I'll be happy to respond and help you all out. And then that QR code goes to the new site. And again, we do have a Discord server going for chat between sessions, and hopefully folks find that useful, just as another way to communicate. And I'll drop that link in here. Uh, you know what, Matt? I'm going to stop complaining to myself. I'm just going to just fix this right now. Through the magic of the interwebs. Matt, if you would be so kind to try scanning that again for me. And Kari, basically, I did a stupid and I called the certification the wrong thing on my website. I'm going to check the questions, but please drop your last minute questions in here. For me, the most confusing thing about Confluence are those restrictions and understanding how they work. It's not available in free, so that can be hard. I might have a YouTube video that helps explain them. I certainly have older live trainings where I spend an hour talking about restrictions. Come on, internet. Permissions. I'll drop these links as well for more information on permissions. This gets very in-depth and well beyond what we need to know for the certification. So that goes well beyond what we have to know in here. And then a follow-up Q&A about that. So these may be helpful if you have questions on permissions. Again, it does dig into the admin side of the house, so it goes beyond what we need to know as end users. But it's good, useful information. All right. Thank you for letting me know, Kari. You may have noticed I don't have nearly as much time as I would like to go edit and scrub these decks, so I appreciate you all keeping me honest, letting me know when things break and letting me know when things don't break. That's very helpful. Other questions? Not seeing too many. The fun YouTube reminder, please like and subscribe if you could. It lets me know what you all find interesting, but please share your ideas on other training. Again, I will keep coming up with ideas for you all that I hope you find useful. Ooh, that's a great question, Scott. Is there an example certification? I can talk. Is there an example certification exam? I actually don't know. So, the professional series has Atlassian University training that includes sample questions. What I could do, Scott, is gin up. Like, I could invent some questions to help test our knowledge. So let me add that to my ever-growing list of things to do. But I'll also look around and see if one already exists. I will talk more about what the exam is like in the last session and how to sign up for it if you want to. What I've noticed, and Kari's agreeing, the ACA, the associate level stuff, doesn't have as much material behind it from Atlassian. And I think that's because historically the certifications are focused on the admins. So the admin level stuff, the the professional level, has a lot of them. There you go, clarification. And that kind of makes sense. However, we do also want to support the 99.83% of people who aren't admins. So Scott, I'll see what I can do about building out something very simple. If I have time, I'll get something spun up by Tuesday to share. It might just be like a Google form that is set up as a quiz. But I want to make sure folks have access to knowledge and things they need. In the same way I've put those very cheap, quick flashcards on the website. Just something to help folks out. So I appreciate the call out and the idea. ACAs are part of designations. Great question, Frank. Let's go find out. So Atlassian has these different certifications. Excuse me. Some of them are bundled together. For example, if you get, it's like 3 or 4 of the professional level, you then get to become an Atlassian certified expert, which is pretty cool and sounds pretty neat. I don't know if they've bundled, and what we're looking at are all of the associate level. Excuse me. I don't know if they've bundled any of these into anything. Oh, designations. Here we go. Scott, The only certification I hold for Atlassian is the ACA-920. I'm working on the ACP, the professional 420, but I started with the associate level. Emily, why would we not want to call it the ACA? Sorry, this is a very bad inside joke. In the United States, there's something called the Affordable Care Act, or the ACA, that impacts healthcare, and a very important law. It just so happens to share a TLA with Atlassian Certified Associate, which makes it confusing if you're searching, and also just confusing to reference, and that's at best. Certification designations. Here we go. They have three: the Certified Expert, earning multiple professional, DevOps specialist, multiple relating to Agile, and ITSM specialist, multiple related to ITSM. So to become an expert, you have to get 4 out of the 6 possible P level. The 920, this one is not included in any bundle. This is something I hope they would change. There isn't, at this point, a professional level Confluence exam. There's only the ACA 920. That is the only exam for Confluence right now, only certification. This kind of makes sense in my mind. Atlassian is mainly known for Jira, the software side of the house, and the bug tracking, so I understand why there are more about Jira. However, many people suffer in Confluence, and having more certification paths and including it in more of these bundles. Oh no, there it is. It's part of one. I need to read more. That's awesome. Having it in more bundles, though, to me is important because Confluence shows up in a lot of spots. That makes me so happy it's part of this. Woo! The next one I'm doing live is the Jira Essentials at 900. Maybe I'll just do these 4 in a row so we can knock out the DevOps specialist. But that was a good question, Frank, and now I learned something. Sandy, thank you. I had a lot of fun jumping into Gemini and ChatGPT and trying to make that happen. I hope it's not too buggy. I'll work on adding more question and answers. And I'm happy to share how I did that. It's basically using a Google Sheet for the information and my website to just show it. All right, folks. We're at time. Thank you all so much for joining. Please like and subscribe. I always got to say that. And I hope to see you in that Discord or next Tuesday. Again, it's Tuesday at 6 a.m. So please make sure you drop in then. And then there's also the one on Friday as well. So we've got both. All right. Debbie, glad your lunch break was good. Oh, thank you, Kythra. Appreciate you sharing. Anyway, all, thank you so much. I enjoy doing this. I get up early to make this happen. I'm glad that some folks like this as well. But looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Please have a great, weekend or rest of Friday. And I will see you all again in about 4 days. And now I get my beautiful opening music. Here we go. Da, 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 da.